Welcome to the Summit Series Day 1 podcast, where we talk about the stories and journeys of companies and founders that Elevation is partnering with. I'm Kshitij, and I focus on crypto and fintech investments at Elevation. And our guest for today's episode is Shaaran, founder and CEO of Brine. Thank you for coming on board, Shaaran. Very excited to have you here for my first episode of this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kshitij, for welcoming. Yeah,
Awesome. Before we begin, let me just start by giving a brief overview of what Brine does for our listeners. At a high level, Brine is one of the first cross-chain order book-based decentralized exchanges in the world, building on the Starkware ecosystem. Brine provides an experience similar to a centralized exchange for users and is built for scale. Incidentally, we were the first investors in Brine and led their seed back in mid 2021, which was a 1.8 million round. Back then, Brine wasn't even Brine. They were building the earlier avatar of Let's Crypto, which was a 0% commission centralized crypto exchange. Even back then, we were very impressed by Sharan and the team's deep technical and product skills at a very young age. Sharan, you were what, 21 years old then?
I think 20. Yeah.
Yeah. And additionally, what stood out to us was Let's Crypto's impressive growth in very few months of launch, going from zero to 100,000 in monthly active users, as well as around 150 million in traded volume when we invested. Since then, the team has pivoted to Brine Finance, a cross-chain decentralized exchange, currently in testnet, but about to launch mainnet in a couple of days.
Yeah,
Exciting times lie ahead for you, Sharan.
certainly does. Yeah.
Great. Brian's testnet has shown amazing initial metrics as well, scaling up to 42,000 users and with more than $520 million volume in traded volume so far. And Sharan and team's relentless focus on building world-class tech and product continues to excite us a lot. And we are very fortunate to be long-term partners with Brian.
Of course.
Thanks for coming, Sharan.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Kshitij. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's dive in. I think what would be great to start with is just your background, right? You've been involved in crypto since a very young age. Maybe talk us through what got you into crypto and how has the journey been for you so far?
So yeah, I mean, like with respect to me, from I think around 13, 14 years itself, I was pretty much into security a lot. And because of my interest in security and distributed computing, I was pretty fond of cryptography and other related domains. And that was the major reason why I got into blockchain. Ever since then, have been contributing to multiple projects out there. Projects like PTO, then the Stellar ecosystem, then the Ethereum ecosystem, Solidity, and a couple of others. And I think I mean, I love to innovate new things. So I've always been going around to hackathons all across the globe. And if you see, there is always I mean, even if you take today, for instance, there will at least be 10 hackathons out there happening out there in the world, blockchain relatedly. So, because of this, I used to go to a lot of hackathons, especially in the blockchain stream, and used to win. I think till now, I've won like 90 plus hackathons all across the globe. Um, so, so I used to work with Stellar Group, won the Stellar Meridian and Genesis Blockchain Award. Then spent a couple of my days at Harvard, where I worked on a blockchain-based Tony avionics system, and for that was we were also awarded. And then was an awardee at TechCrunch SF, and so it just like went across like that. And because of all of these things, I used to have a lot of cryptocurrencies at my hand, and my mom, always used to mock at me, saying that, Sharon, are you trying to become a dark lord in the dark web? You're having this much amount of cryptocurrencies. So because of all of these things, I was, like wanting to prove my mom, saying that, I can pay with cryptocurrencies in any shop in India.
Right.
So I made this app and I showed my mom, see, I can do it. And I went across, just bought some things with crypto. And that was just like a start of crypto. I initially built it just for me, but accidentally, within a month, we had over 50,000 users, and the scale was enormous.
Wow.
And
This is just
that,
for context for everyone listening. This is the crypto pay product along with the exchange that you'd built earlier.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So this was majorly how it started. And since for this thing we needed KYCs and all the bits and pieces across that, we wanted to make it, we were forced to make it a centralized exchange. But our entire philosophy behind building was around building a decentralized exchange. But because of having the necessary to, have the KYCs and other things, we actually just went across and just made a centralized exchange. And even today, the centralized exchange has been doing enormously well. I think we've done currently over 600 to 700 million dollars in volumes, and increased the user base to over a million users and more. So it has
Amazing.
been extremely well going on in over there. But like back at our head, there was always this point which was like, Sharon, your vision is different. Like you have to
Right,
go
right.
find that, build something completely decentralized. So that
That's
was
actually
how the
quite
vision.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very interesting journey, Sharon, for someone who's so young. I think very unique and quite deep. But actually, that the last point that you mentioned, I think, is a nice segue into the next question, right? Which is just, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs listening to the podcast, it would be helpful if you talk about how you knew when the right time was to pivot away from Let's Crypto, and then how you identify the opportunity to build brine, right?
Yeah. So the main thing that we have to see when building a product is the market. When I initially started crypto, there was a market just booming up. There was not enough users in India, and the CAC, or the customer acquisition cost per user, was extremely low. Like you just tell them, everybody wanted to buy a Bitcoin, and nobody had access to buy a Bitcoin. So the
Right.
first was to build something so that people can be on board to buy those Bitcoins, Ethereum, or whatsoever currency they require. But around December, we actually saw a great spike in the number of users because of all the crypto hype that was going on over there.
This is
And that was
December last year, right?
exactly
Right.
2021 December. Now, that is exactly a time where there is a perfect market, and then there comes the fear in the market. Because all of these exchanges are centralized and there is no regulatory body behind it. So, what happens, or who checks whether the exchanges have the right liquidity on their hand? And I mean, like, favorably, there has been multiple cases where today a lot of exchanges have been liquidated, and these are like in billions and trillions of dollars.
Right.
So this gave us a great story to build on top of. So back at December, we were like, like thinking that, like these things would happen because there is no regulation, and there will be some people like this in the market where the market will take a turn. And since we forecasted that, we started building Brian back from December, wanting
Mm.
to give the users a seamless experience, just like how what they're, I mean, like having it now. We wanted to, like be the bridge between the Web 2 and the Web 3 world, and take them seamlessly into the Web 3 world, and take them over there without even them realizing that they are using Web 3. So because of this,
Maybe
we
just
actually
as you bring that point, Sharan, I think would be good to emphasize what's special about Brine as a decentralized exchange, because I'm sure a lot of listeners know what a decentralized exchange is, but are not able to appreciate what Brine is about. So maybe that would be good to also talk about as you go deeper.
yeah, yeah. Sure. So, especially Brian, as mentioned, we want to make it completely accessible. And accessible is the key thing that we are solving for. If you go about using Uniswap or any other decentralized exchange that's out there, you might probably end up paying $20, $25 every transaction. And this is not a mistake of Uniswap, but it's because of the reason that it sits on L1. And apart from that, there is also a lot of traders, like degen traders, who maintain balances across different chains. Like, let's say I might have $100 in like, let's say, the Binance chain, and I might have another $100 on the Polygon chain, but the coin I want to buy might be on the Ethereum chain, and I want to buy for $200. If that is the case, I need to first bridge all the coins into the Ethereum side, and then again go about purchasing it from there. Now, this is a very not only a lengthy process but also a pretty expensive process. And that's where Brian becomes extremely beneficial for users, so they don't have to worry about all of these multiple chains or movements, bridges, and all of those things. We make sure you are able to get your coins at the best price at the least time without any kind of gas fees being spent. So that's majorly what we are solving for. We want to make that accessibility and easeability right there put into your plate, and that's what Brian is all about. Yeah,
Amazing, amazing. So completely building the experience of a centralized exchange in a decentralized manner for the users, right?
exactly. Your keys are always with you. We don't touch it.
Amazing. And also, I think another important point to really touch upon is like this has really stood out with you as a founder and obviously the team that you've built around you. But just for a product like Brine, the tech behind powering the decks is very non-trivial and is very, very important to get right to handle scale, to ensure a very frictionless journey for the user cross-chain, protect against any form of exploits. So talk us through your ramp up in this whole ZK and Starkware world, and also how you build your confidence on your tech.
Yeah. So let's just start from the basics. There is two way to scale a blockchain. The first thing is like, let's say Ethereum has this gas limit, or the block size. Let's take the block size. So in case if I increase the block size, that means I can put more transactions into it. So I have scaled the Ethereum blockchain. Now, the problem here is that when I, go about increasing the block size, then the amount of computation that I require to, completely go around fulfilling this block size would be much higher. So, in case if you were initially running on a 12 GB RAM device, you might probably need a much larger device, maybe like let's say a 50 GB RAM, or some extremely high computational CPU usage device or something like that. Now, the problem is that in case if we go around increasing the block size and making it more transactionally challenging, what happens is that I may not be able to run this specified machine or the specified computation on my laptop. So that is where the problem comes. And when that is not possible, then the number of people who would be involved in running these machines would be extremely low. So it's all about like these small number of highly performant computational engines running the blockchain. And do we necessarily go about calling this a blockchain which is completely decentralized and completely people owned? It's truly not. So there is this latter form of like blockchain scaling, which is like using cryptography or zero knowledge. Now, the ethos of cryptography is that even if if I mean like even if the entire, let's say like the banking network, right, they process so many transactions every second, even that amount of transactions being transferred every second for a historical basis, a small Raspberry Pi kind of a hardware should be able to tell if they are doing the transactions rightly or wrong. And that's majorly how cryptography is extremely performant. And in case if you ask, have I used cryptography before? Everybody in this world are using cryptography before. If you're downloading a software that's like, let's say many people play a lot of games. I mean, in case if you are playing GTA 5 or probably something like that, there is this, thing, some key which hash which they give you, which is basically used to verify if the game you downloaded was actually, indeed without any, there is no corrupt data
Right,
inside,
right.
or glitch or something. So it helps you verify the entire data. But if you ask me how long does it take to verify this complete game, it takes less than a second to verify this complete game, complete. Now I'm on 66 GB of data. It takes a second to verify, and that is the power of cryptography. And it can do even much more. And that is what amazed me on ZK Tech. The thing to verify large sums of data, which is the biggest problem in today's world. Like, I'm not able to verify data. Like, what you're seeing out there, you're not able to verify it. And that's the major reason why we started with ZK. And Starkware seemed as a great option to build on top, because you don't have to ultimately work on the math behind ZK. But for developers, it's extremely performant, even though the language that Cairo is a little bit
Yeah,
steep to learn, but like still, it's pretty interesting and very very easy to learn than to understand the math behind it. So I think was the reason why we went with ZK, and it has been extremely performing well for us. And I think we have done over in the testnet itself 1.64 million orders we have processed, and
amazing.
this is just like 2 weeks of testnet being online, and we have done over 400,000 trades. So I think the systems are extremely scalable.
Awesome. That's amazing to hear that whole journey and how you thought about this and approach this whole thing, right? I think just on the same vein of mentioning how the testnet is progressing, I think another crucial aspect of for a founder in crypto is to also build a community around their products, especially decentralized products, right?
Yeah.
How have you been able to bootstrap this so far? We've almost reached around 18,000 followers on Twitter, almost 14,000 members on Discord. And as you said, within 2 weeks of testnet launch, we've been able to scale up so much. So, what are some of the lessons you can share here for other founders listening to this?
So, whenever a Web3 company is built, community is much rather more important than even the tech, to be honest,
Right.
because we were initially, like we were completely tech focusing. We didn't have any focus on the community side. In fact, till I mean, I think May, June, our community play was literally zero.
Yeah.
We had less than 1,000, 2,000 followers and less than 900 members on Discord. So that's what we were. But after some time, we realized that like community is a much important role, and because there is I mean, it's majorly the degens who will be using the project or the product initially, and we can't directly go to the market and like go about getting all the users there from. So in order for us to make that happen, we had to focus on community somewhere or the other. And there were many people suggesting that like you just buy followers, you just put them, it will just show that your project. But it pretty much evidently shows on the project. Like you have 80,000 followers and you put a tweet, maximum 10 people, 20 people would like that. I mean, that's not a community. That's basically an incentivized community, or probably like monetarily incentivized community. So what is the other best ways was to like give users some challenges, telling users what they need to do in order to get what they want. So when we initially started, we went about contacting other projects in the ecosystem and did a lot of activities with all of these people. And apart from that, we also contacted some KOLs, key industry leaders. So we went to them and we asked them to, like give a shout out to the project. So that's how the initial like number of followers increased for us. And after that, what we did was, so these followers are extremely quality followers. So we actually kept a note of all of these folks. And after that, what we started was we told these of our followers to go about doing some certain quests that can give them some points to, like access the early testnet access, early mainnet access, or giving them some kind of swags, like give them a socks, give them like something that makes them feel special. So that's what we did. We gave some people some NFTs and other things which could incentivize them. And sooner or later, within a week, the community just bombed. I mean, like there was insane growth.
Exploded.
And yeah, 20,000, nearly 20,000 followers, and 20,000 on Discord, extremely active. And if you see our engagements per post, we get over 80,000, I think, sorry, 60,000 impressions. So that's extremely high. And that's how we have been able to, like increase the throughput of the communities. And yeah, I mean, like there has been multiple solutions and multiple other projects which we have used in order to grow our community. But yeah, I mean, like it has all been a great journey so far.
Awesome, awesome. That's amazing. I'm sure there's a lot to learn for a lot of people listening to this on just bootstrapping a community in such a short time. And I remember the kind number of weekly calls we've had on hiring people, thinking of solutions to bootstrap our community. So I'm glad that everything's coming together well right now as we are gearing up for mainnet.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think what would be interesting to also talk about is just what's the roadmap for Brian going ahead and what excites you over the next few years.
I think there is always places where we can do better. In case today, if we can match probably 100,000 orders every second, tomorrow let's try to do 1 million orders per second. And the more number of TPS we are able to do, the more number of people that can come up and use our platform as an infrastructure. Tomorrow, let's say XYZ exchange wants to develop a decentralized exchange. They don't need to specifically go about building a decentralized exchange of their own. They can just use us as a service, and just go about building their own exchanges. Or probably some websites want to put an exchange simply, or some games want to change the coins from this to this. They can use our website. So, I mean, that infrastructural play is what is more appetizing to us, and that's what we'll be focusing on the years coming forward. But as of today, we want to show how much of an amazing product it is to the customers and users directly, and later we can start thinking about this. And also, like, apart from this, there is also multiple things presently. If you see, we are running on an 18 cluster centrally hosted matching engine, which means that the entire matching of one order and another order happens in our systems. But tomorrow we want to actually go about decentralizing this. What if Kshitij can host probably a one instance of it, or XYZ can host three instances of it? So that's majorly what we are going about, because every decentralized company starts with a little bit of centralization there, because right at day one, nobody has all the nodes hosted by every other third party. So that's majorly where we are also starting at. And as we go across, we would be, like, anybody can come and open their clusters, and we would slowly start pulling out our clusters from the game, so that it's, even more reliable and even more decentralized. So tomorrow, if the government asks us to, like, plug out, even if we plug out, there are so many instances of our engine running that would be truly unstoppable. So that's majorly what the vision is at, and that's where we would be focusing towards.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that key is sort of decentralizing progressively over time makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
that's a journey a lot of even more scaled up protocols have followed. Uh,
Yeah.
Great. And I think just uh, just to conclude, I think the one last question I would want to ask you is if there's a crypto founder starting up today, what are the kind of lessons you would want to share with them uh, based on your journey so far?
So the first thing would be to, like anything in crypto, they first need to build the community. And to be very honest, we haven't spent any money on building the community. So
Right.
once a person can actually go about building the community, they can reach to, like, the best of the crypto funds like Elevation, Pantera, and all the other folk. And especially, to say, I mean, like, right from very long time, we have been in Elevation's support. So it has been extremely amazing, and the opinions, and I think we have at least two calls every week, or much more than that sometimes, where I go ping multiple other people apart from Kshitij, Utkarsh, Vas, and all the other folks in Elevation, and they've been extremely, like, friendly. And I mean, there have also been cases where we have done some mistakes, and we were like quite reluctant to say, oh my god, we did this, what would be the outcome, would this make them tensed or something. And the way how you guys have handled it has been extremely amazing. So I would surely give a great hats off for that thing. And I would
Thank
surely
you
recommend
for that.
another, yeah, I mean, like, any other founder who is raising to, I mean, like, to be very very specific on the VCs whom they are choosing, because
Right.
these are not partners for tomorrow or day after, but probably for the next tens of years of, like, days of the platform. So I think that is the most important key for any project. It's not only about, like, starting the community, but also about finding the best VC to support them. And apart from that, then It's majorly about building the right tech, and solving for the right problem at the right time, because timing is the most important. If I took the decentralized exchange and marketed it back in like 2021 January February, I might not even have a single traction on it. But today there is a hell lot of traction, because there are so many centralized exchanges where you cannot properly trade, and you need to go to a decentralized exchange to trade without so and so's of the world. So this friction is there, which we are making frictionless. So there is an actual purpose for the project. So that is majorly what is essential, and also like a very good vision of what we are going to do on the next forthcoming years. That is also pretty important, because in crypto, every month is a year, and
Yeah.
every year is a decade. So the innovations are extremely high. So we always need to forecast what would happen tomorrow, and have to build products side by side, so that it will, like, compose as one proper ecosystem. So I think these are some things, and there are a lot more things. But yeah, I mean, I'd just like to stop it over here.
Awesome, Sharan. No, these are some really valuable sort of takeaways for many people listening. So thank you for sharing that. It's been a privilege working with you so far over a year and a half, and I look forward to the next decade of working together with Brian and seeing how this really scales up and takes like sees global scale going ahead. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Sharan, for doing this. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kshitij, and for all the support you guys have been giving. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sharan.